Hello again. I have some more examples. These are for section 7.2. We're going to estimate the population mean using samples. We'll have some special tools. I'll go over those and some very basic examples to take a look at. You will need your calculator, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the examples right away. Remember, these go along with section 7.2. You want to read your text first, take a look at the PowerPoint presentation, then try the homework problems in the homework section module. And as you go through there, review the video as needed. So here we go. It should, let's see. There we go. So the examples in general will be very, very similar to what we saw in 7.1. What is different, though, is in this case, we will be estimating a population mean. First off, confidence interval interpretation. We'll start with a given confidence interval. We'll locate the point estimate and the margin of error. So here again, I'll remind people that a simple number line does wonders. 59.6 on the low end and 71.2 on the high end. We're looking for the point right in the middle. I'll remind people that keystrokes are common to a lot of the issues we've looked at already this semester. So I'll take the 59.6, I will add to that the 71.2, find the sum, and then divide by 2 to find the value directly in the middle, 65.4. So X bar, 65.4. That point is exactly halfway between the low end and the upper end of the confidence interval. So my point estimate, X bar, 65.4 miles per hour. And I usually like the same rounding that I see in the data, or in this case, the confidence interval. I'll get the same rounding there. Now I'll need my margin of error. We either add or subtract that margin of error. It's the same size on either side of the point estimate. So my margin of error is, and I usually tell students to use the upper limit of the margin of error, the upper limit of the confidence interval, and subtract from that the point estimate of 65.4. So 71.2 minus 65.4, we have 5.8. So 5.8 is my margin of error. I bring that back over here, 5.8 miles per hour. All right, so we worked with a margin of error. Now, let's take a look at the second example where we're going to actually construct a confidence interval. It's an important tool in statistics, and if the requirements are not met, the estimate is really not very good or even usable in many circumstances. There are two requirements that must be met. First, I'll need a simple random sample. Do I have that in this situation? Well, I've got a random sample, and that'll be good enough. Now, I also need either or. The sample size needs to be greater than 30, and or the population needs to be normally distributed. In this case, I know nothing about the distribution of the population, but I do note that my sample size is 35, and in that case, we've checked both boxes. So we're ready to go and construct the confidence interval. We have a dedicated tool for that. It is the t interval, and this uses the t distribution, also called the student's t distribution. So where do I find that tool? That tool is located under stats over here on the far right. I don't want the t-test, I need the t-interval tool. You'll notice that I can input raw data or I can input summary statistics. In this case, I have summary statistics. Babies in my sample have a mean of birth weight of 5.7 pounds. The standard deviation is 1.9 pounds in that sample. The sample has size n equals 35, and I'm calculating the 95% confidence interval. 0.95 goes in as a decimal. I'll go ahead and select calculate, and I will note that my calculator will give me back my summary data, my sample statistics, and the confidence interval up here. Now, I'll want to use the correct notation. I'll want to use the correct rounding. I will note that my data has one decimal place for the mean and the standard deviation. I'll take one here. So 5.0 pounds less than mu. We are estimating a population mean, so the parameter is mu. And then the upper limit, 6.35 and change, that's 6.4 pounds. So there we go. Now, what does this actually mean that we've got the 95% confidence interval? What that means, if I redo this 100 times with 100 samples, about 95 will contain the true mean mu. So we have a very good chance of actually finding the true mean somewhere within this interval. We don't know where, but somewhere in there. Now, let's take a look at a second example. We can also work with raw data. I don't need summary statistics. Here we have random sample scores. We're going to assume that the scores follow a normal distribution. I'm going to check my requirements. I have a random sample, so that's good to go. N is only equal to 11. That's definitely less than 30. However, my population follows a normal distribution, so it's approximately normal. And that requirement is also met. So now we can go ahead and work the problem. We're going to go and construct the 95% confidence interval. I'll note that my data does not have any decimal places. So when I do my rounding, I'll take one more decimal place there. Now, I want to make sure my data goes into a particular list. I'll put my data into list 1. So, stat, oh, list 1, there it is. It's ready to go. Now, once that data gets in there, I can jump directly to my t-interval test. This time, I have raw data. I pointed at list 1. The frequency should remain at 1. That's a default value. You shouldn't need to adjust that. 0.95 goes in for the confidence level, and then I can go ahead and calculate the result. In addition to the confidence interval, I also get my point estimate, my sample mean, and my sample standard deviation. I'll note those down below, but it's not necessarily part of the answer here. I'll take one decimal place, so we got 73.3. We're talking points, so there are no inherent units. At the upper end, 83.8. I'll note that my mean and my standard deviation, in this example, 78.5 and 7.8. Those may be necessary at some later date for some more advanced analysis. In any case, we have 2 examples: summary statistics and raw data. In both cases, we use the t-interval tool. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you, and we'll see you soon enough. Reach out with questions and concerns. Use our discussion board or email me. Thank you again for your time. Hang in there. The semester will be over at some point.